Hi, I'm Kevin Fleischman,
And I'm Marcy Robledo.
and we are two programmers for the Over the Rhine International Film Festival in Cincinnati, Ohio.
And as Gen Xers, we love to watch the films that we watched as kids, but then also rewatch them as adults. So this episode, we're watching The Dead Poet Society, or we watched The Dead Poet Society. So that we're going to be talking about The Dead Poet Society. Process of elimination. That's what we're doing.
There you go. So Marcy, what else have you been watching before we get into the Poet Society? What have you been watching? Like anything catch your eye?
I just kind of been floating around, just seeing stuff, old movies. Like last night, I watched 9 to 5, the Lily Tomlin and Dolly Parton, Jane Fonda. Watched that. But in terms of streaming, I've been watching She-Hulk. And
have you?
Yeah, and
I haven't gotten around to that. What do you think?
I like it, but I wish the episodes were longer. It just feels like they're teases instead of actual episodes. So that's a little annoying. But I do love the actress Tatiana. I can't remember her last name, but she's amazing. She does a great.
Maisley, yeah.
She's an amazing She-Hulk. See what else?
Right.
There's something else. How can I forget? The House of Dragons on HBO.
Ooh, okay.
So that one, I really like it, but in a different way than Game of Thrones.
Okay.
This one, I feel like you don't have to have known anything about the storyline, and you can go right on it. They're gentle to you and get you into the storyline. Whereas Game of Thrones, I had not read the books, but at the time when they came out on HBO originally, I was working with a bunch of kids that had read the book. So I watched the episode and I have to go and get a debriefing. Okay, I don't understand what happened, but I know it was big. So they would have to, guide me through what I saw. So the House of Dragons, I feel like, is much more gentle on the audience if you have not seen the previous series or anything like that. So I think in that respect, it's much better. But dragons. I mean, you're watching dragons. You see dragons. Promise dragons, you're getting dragons. So those are the two things I've been watching.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, there's no escaping the dragons. Let's see. On streaming, I have started the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. And this may be blasphemy, but I can't count myself among like the true fans of the Lord of the Rings films. Like I can appreciate them. They are massively impressive. But even back when I was a kid reading those books, I don't know why they just never captured my imagination the way that a lot of other works did. Mm-hmm. Watching these, I watched the first 2 episodes. I will say, anyone out there who enjoys Lord of the Rings movies or books, there's no way you're not going to enjoy this. I mean, it's got the scope is just epic. The world building is incredible. I went online and found an article labeled "A brief recap of everything you need to know before you watch The Rings of Power," and it was 3,000 words long. I mean, it was just ridiculous. That's
I'd like to know.
the brief. I think that's one reason why I haven't been able to fully bond with it. A brief recap should never need 3,000 words. But like I said, if you like all that stuff, it seems to be doing well. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Like if you screenshotted the screen while you're watching it 20 times, just randomly with your eyes closed, 18 of those things you could hang on your wall. It's just gorgeous. It's absolutely work of art wise, great. And in the theaters, I just saw, I think it's called 3,000 Years of Longing. the George Miller film with Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, how was that? Oh,
I I just feel if you're gonna have a movie with those two performers, I want more. I wanted more. It's the movie itself is essentially an ode to the power of storytelling, which is super important, something I completely buy into. And I don't want to shortchange it, but well over half the film takes place with the two of them sitting in a room and retelling stories. And yes, the visuals go off and the stories, it's like a mini movie inside the movie, but I don't know, like two of the most incredible performers in the world. I wanted more than just sitting and talking. I've never been a big sitting and talking, like when you have a movie that came from a play. I have a hard time falling in love with most of those movies. Not there are some that I have loved, but yeah, I just kind of wanted a little more from the trifecta of Idris Elba, Tilda Swinton, and George Miller. But I will say a lot of people seem to like it, so I don't want to poo-poo on it too much, and don't want to talk people out of checking it out for themselves. But Dead Poet Society. Here we go. Let's dig into some DPS. Let's sit by the lake and read some poems in the dark. Where were you, Marcy? What were you doing the first time you saw Dead Poet Society?
So it came out summer of 1989, and so that was the year that I graduated high school. So it was very poignant at that point in my life, because I was getting ready to go off to college and all this stuff, and so it was powerful. Even though it is a guy story, men, boy story, just that whole notion of growing through art, or finding the written word and just really resonating with it. And I think that laid the groundwork when I did go off to school, which was music school at the time, to really appreciate not only words but sound. And even though I didn't realize it at that time, but just just what things mean, the sound of things, and poetry, and just discovering, just getting out of one zone. And I grew up in rural Indiana, so there was not a lot of exposure to much of anything. There was no internet at the time.
Sure. A lot of corn.
A lot of corn. A lot of exposure to corn. So it was a great way to start shifting the mindset to being open to what else is out there. Because at that time you're getting ready to go into a whole new world. And I did go to school in Eastern Kentucky, which culturally speaking was a whole lot different than, even though it was rural, it's a different rural than Northwest Indiana rural. Eastern Kentucky rural has its own flavor to it.
Okay.
So yeah. So that was very poignant at that point. But then also Robin Williams, come on now. Who didn't want to have Captain Robin Williams guiding them through life? So he was amazing. And then, of course, the young talent of the boys, Ethan Hawke, Robert something Leonard, or something.
Robert Sean Leonard, I believe.
Robert Sean Leonard. Those two definitely breakouts. And then the kid who played Charlie Knox, he was another breakout. So yeah, I mean, overall, I just loved it. It was just the right film at the right time as I was venturing off into the new chapter of a new college student.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Oh gosh, I want to say, as we get older, the memory, it's just not what it used to be. But I did this movie came out in the fall, correct? Fall of '89.
Thought it was the summer, but it could be.
Okay, maybe it was the summer. So it would have been the summer before my senior year of high school, or the fall of my senior year. I went to see it, I believe, on a date with my future fall '89 homecoming date. Friend of mine. We still like each other's family photos on Facebook. Haven't spoken to her in probably 30 years, for real. But yeah, I saw it in the theater, and I didn't rewatch this movie in the last week or so, but I've seen it many, many times. And every time I see it, I'm just amazed that the memory I have of seeing it back then, like completely, it doesn't skate over, but it largely omits how sad of a movie this is at the end. I remember the inspiration. I remember the joy. I remember boys standing up to authority for the first time in their lives, and like it's like a crossing that threshold into manhood. Like I carried all that with me into my senior year. And funny enough, like you mentioning it, you taking that into your new world of college. I entered college, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but not a huge idea of what I wanted to do. And I wound up settling on being an English literature major, largely because of the teacher I would have in my senior year of high school, right after seeing this movie. She was making us write poetry. And I don't think I ever put these two things together, the movie and this activity we did in class. But she would make us write poetry, and me and three buddies, we just hated it. We didn't want any part of it. So we decided to write the worst poems possible, like to actually make her eyes bleed while she read them, but still follow the assignment so we could get credit. And the first time we did that, we thought we were all that. We thought we were the smart ones. We thought we won. And she proceeded to read the poems out loud to not just my class, but every single class that she had. Teachers Lounge, they made up like a nickname, like for us, the Fruit Loop Gang, me and my few friends. And weirdly enough, that encouraged us. Like she said, keep going, keep writing this awful, awful stuff, because she saw that we had a passion for it. Like we were, maybe not a passion, but we were putting a lot of ourselves into it, even if it wasn't all positive. And I think that's what led me. I bounced around from different college majors, but I always remembered that experience in that class. And that is the reason why I settled on an English Lit degree and why I'm here. So it's kind of my little history with Dead Poet Society.
Mm-hmm. Well, good teachers are so hard to come by. And in watching this, I was reminded of Tom Ryan, who taught freshman English as well as junior college prep English. So I had him both years, and damn it if I still don't remember his grammar, his rules. That he taught the grammar rules really, really well, and the commas, and don't splice your sentences and things like that. And not only the technical part, but just again, that analytical part, just being able to hear something and start analyzing it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Why? That type of thing. But he was a goofy looking guy. He was I think definitely ex-military, but I think it was either a Navy pilot or Air Force. Can't remember which, but I know pilots were in there somewhere. Okay. And he had a drinking problem before he came to teaching, and so he was very open about that. But just had that same passion for teaching. Didn't talk down to us, challenged us, just like Mr. Keating. And so yeah, I really, really, really appreciated.
Yeah. My 12th grade teacher has passed, but I still want to give her a shout out. Jane Droy. She is amazing, just wonderful, wonderful. Truly, met us. There's a saying in teaching, always meet the kids where they are. And she saw that we hated that stuff and met us where we are, and let us run with it and took us so far, so far.
Mhm. So what about the characters? What do you think about Todd and let's see what the names, Todd and Neil
Neil.
and the Fink, Cameron the Fink.
It's a great group of characters. Yeah, it's amazing to watch now. Yeah, I think I've spoken on this on other episodes, but I think it's kind of the point of this, the Gen X lens, where we're watching this as people in our 50s, to see Ethan Hawke at that age. I read that he dropped out of college. He got the part and said, "I'm out of there." To see his growth, to see his growth, and I don't want to dismiss the abundance of talent that he had at such a young age. I think that's one thing that always blows me away watching this movie, especially the scene where Keating, had him close his eyes in front of the class, and Walt Whitman's up there. There was the toothy, the madman with the toothy grin or whatever it is. To watch him take that scene with, come on, a legend. Like, he's up against Robin Williams. And that scene, I think I'm talking too fast because, we often talk about two actors in a scene. Can you carry your weight? Can the new person carry the weight with a legend? Right. And there is a bit of that dynamic going on. But if you watch that scene, Robin Williams is being the teacher, not just in the class. He's being the supportive teacher, pulling this poem out of this reluctant kid. But it's almost like everything he says, you could hear the wise, sage, older, experienced actor giving the young actor advice. I can't believe I can't remember what he said. There's something at the very end of the poem that he says. He says something like, "Take that with you."
Mhm.
Or he says, like, "Don't forget this. Don't forget this. Take this with you." And I'm like, that it's such a beautiful scene because it's working on two levels, right? It's working on what's happening in the action of the narrative, but it's also real life.
Mhm.
So yeah, to watch him, Neil, my gosh, what can you say about Neil? Just he is the epitome of youthful optimism, of having the entire road laid out for you, and where can you go? That's another thing I think about as an older dude now. Like, I love the path I took. I'm enjoying my path still, but you look back and you think, like, what if you had just had the I don't know, lack of a better word, the cojones to take whatever path you just wanted. And to watch Neil do that is just so inspirational.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think about the class of boys here?
Well, the boys, just all of them play their parts really, really well. They each had a role to play and they did it well. But of course, the standouts. We can't. Yes, we could, but it'll take too long to go through every guy.
Yeah.
But with Ethan Hawke, I just watched. It's the series of Before Sunset, Before Sunrise,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
then
Midnight.
So I just saw the last one,
Mhm.
and again, man, it's just raw because it's just he and Delphi, and it's just dialogue, and it's these two characters, these two lovers, just trying to figure it out. Even you see the progression with the three movies,
Mhm.
and his body of work overall, just so impressive. But he's largely under the radar. A lot of his films have not been major blockbusters or anything like that.
Yeah.
But what he has been in is just incredible. And I do remember seeing him as Chet Baker. There was a film maybe 10 years ago, and he played Chet Baker, and Chet Baker lost a tooth. And so he committed to the role. His tooth was gone.
Wow.
And I don't think it was, the makeup or anything.
No CGI. He's
CGI.
legit.
None of that CGI. But, going back to that moment where he was affected, you can tell as an actor that, again, he really savors the words. He savors the meaning. He savors the sound. He savors the moment, which that alone is just amazing. So yeah, he's always been my favorite out of all the actors.
Oh yeah.
But going back to the character of Neil, I wonder how many kids who do have privilege, come from privilege, but they're just so miserable. I wonder how many of them really are like that. And
Yeah.
I mean, for him, because he was extremely intelligent, he was he had a lot of friends. He wasn't secluded or had any kind of drug problems or anything that could take him down the path of suicide. But because he was riding so high, and for that to drop just made him all that more poignant and much more powerful. And looking at it as an adult as opposed to a teenager, I feel more anger towards the parents than I did back then.
Oh yeah.
It's like, don't you see you have a really great kid? Just loosen it up a little bit. I mean, he's keeping up with his grades. And if you're so worried about him getting into college, this is only going to help him get into college even more. So it's just all that agenda behind the parents, which drove.
Yeah. It's weird, like how the lens of that we see the parents through have changed from 1989 till now as we've grown up, because I think I hated the parents when I saw this in the theater, but there was also a feeling of, well, that's just what parents do. Like, I didn't expect anything else from their parents. And I think, growing up, especially in the 70s and 80s, I grew up thinking my parents could do no wrong. Like, even as I watched them screw up like so many times, it's just like, well, that must be how it is. Like, they're, whatever. Like, but now watching the parents, I hate them just as much, but in a completely different way. Like, it's that piece of, you didn't have to do that. Like you said, you had a wonderful kid. And if you really wanted him to get into med school, I'm sure playing Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream would have helped. But you just the defiance against authority in this movie, I think, is what I pick up on later in life. Like, when I was younger, I picked up on the magic of poetry and like feeling alive and feeling like the world was ahead of me. But like, if I could have a Mount Rushmore of like 4 images that are defying authority, it would be the person standing up in Tiananmen Square. It would be the 1968 Olympics raising their fists. It would be the woman at, I believe it was the 2016 BLM protests, when there's these 3 SWAT officers rushing up to her, and she's in this sundress. She's just gorgeous, standing up like the most powerful statue goddess in the world. And then number 4, honestly, is the guy standing on their desks saying goodbye to Mr. Keating. That scene, I did rewatch that scene this morning, and I was just so moved by every kid sweating. They all sweat in different ways, but every kid sweat so bad before they stood on their desks. Like, Ethan Hawke jumps up, right? But every kid after that is just like, do I do this? Do I do this? Can I finally do this? That moment where you truly grow up, where you're saying, I'm going to take a stand against this, even though I know I'm going to get slammed for it. Not like, I hope my parents don't find out. Like, I'm going to get slammed for this, but I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to defy authority. That's kind of the message I take these days.
I really liked the relationship that the boys had with each other. You know, first day of school, they're already forming their study groups, and they're helping each other out, and all of this stuff. I also like how they contrast the prep boys to public school boys.
Yes.
The public
Yeah.
school boys were portrayed to have that toxic masculinity, and
Yep.
the other boys were refined and academic, and they were reading poetry, and the public school boys were thugs and football players and get drunk on the weekends at parties. And
Yep.
yeah, the contrast was very, very stark. Interesting, not but yeah, very, very stark. But that did lead me down the thought of, well, in real life, is that really true? You know, I don't know. I've never been to a boys' school, never attended a boys' school, I've never taught at a boys' school, all boys' school. So I really don't know if that camaraderie is really real. I'm guessing on some level it is, but yeah, I did notice that contrast this time around, as opposed to when I was younger. So, and in fact, it reminded me of, I used to be the group sales manager for Playhouse in the Park, and so we would have matinees for schools, and the private schools. Those kids were always a joy. They were very orderly and well maintained and well managed. And so now that I think about it, I think there is some truth to that commentary that the movie had about the private school kids versus the public school kids.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but anyway, what other things that popped out at you this time around?
So this is one thing I was pondering this morning. I'm gonna bring up a blasphemous point, perhaps. I looked at comedians who were born either the same year Robin Williams was, or a year before, a year after. And I have a list here because I don't know about you, I did not see this performance from Robin Williams coming at all in 1989. In 1989, I knew him mostly from Mork and Mindy. I knew him greatly from his, I assume, cocaine-fueled stand-up comedic performances. I didn't think he could do this. I was, as sublime as his performance is, it was equally shocking to me. Maybe not shocking, but surprising, right? So let me just throw, I got 4 names of comedians here who, you know, also at the same time, you would have told me you could have put Robin Williams with this group of names. I would have said, no way could this person pull this off. So these are Robin Williams contemporaries. Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Bill Murray, Martin Short. They're all essentially the same age. Could you see any of them pulling this off? Try and go back to 1989, because like I said, now no one will ever be Mr. Keating except Robin Williams. He was absolutely perfect. Despite the fact they tried to cast Liam Neeson, Mel Gibson, and Alec Baldwin in the role.
Yeah.
No one else could ever be Keating. But out of that 4, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Bill Murray, Martin Short, does anyone have a chance? Does anyone come close?
I say Bill.
I've been thinking long and hard about it today. I'm putting you on the spot, I know, but
I say Bill Murray.
Okay. See, he was not my choice. I think I have a very surprising choice.
Okay.
I think Bill Murray, because I said I had been thinking about this. I was almost with Bill. He was my like, if it were a horse race, he was fast out of the gate. He was way in front.
Okay.
I think he's just way too cynical. Like, I think he can obviously be as hysterical as Robin Williams. The comedic chops are there. I think what I loved about Robin Williams' performance is he has this woundedness that's never explicitly spelled out. There's something that I feel like hit him hard and put him into this life he's leading as an educator. And I think Bill could probably pull that off too, as evidence in Lost in Translation. But I can't see Bill Murray getting excited about poetry, or like to that extent. Like I can't. That's where it falls short. And you can slam me if you want. Out of those four, I think I might go John Candy. Obviously a funny dude. I think he could have this, impassioned romantic feelings for poetry that I'm not totally sure Bill Murray could pull off. And I think of like John Candy and Uncle Buck, like very wounded dude. I think he's the closest. Not that anyone could have done what Robin Williams did, because I think he takes all those qualities and wraps it up into an unbelievably inspiring package. Like if you put my feet to the fire, I think that's where John Candy falls short. Like I think John Candy could do everything that Robin Williams did. I don't think I'm walking out of there with the passion for poetry and the passion for life that I do.
It's interesting.
I do have one other person I think could have did it though.
Who's that?
Try this on for size, and again, slam me. Feel free to just throw me under the bus and slam me. Michael Keaton. I think Michael Keaton could have done this.
Yeah.
I think because he's got the crazy. See Beetlejuice. He's got the crazy. And I think I just think Michael Keaton could do just about anything. I think he would have. Again, I never want to replace Robin Williams. Not why I'm bringing this up, but I always think it's fun to think about like who else could have done it. I think it's an incredibly short list. Weirdly, I don't know if Mel Gibson would have been. I don't think he would have been a bad choice. No. Is this based on what we know about Mel Gibson now, or is this based on 1989 Mel Gibson?
1989.
Okay.
Yeah, because by then Mad Max was already out. And interesting, you mentioned Mel Gibson, and we'll circle back to Mel Gibson in a little while.
Okay.
Also around that time, I think, I can't remember a year. Living Dangerously was before or after Dead Poets. But I believe he played a journalist in that.
Yeah, it was right around there.
I don't think he had the softness, isn't the right word, but it's the closest word that I can get to what Robin has with the kids, with the boys.
Yes, you're right.
It's not the right word, but it's as close as I can get.
No, I think he's a little more abrasive. That I think the word I get, wounded. I think whatever wounded Keating comes through. I mean, there are a lot of reactions, right, to being wounded, and I think you hit it right there with Keating's reaction. Is there's a softness to him from his wound. There's a tenderness to him.
Tender. That's that's the word. Tenderness. Yeah. Murray doesn't quite have that tenderness, but he has a soft spot in the underbelly that's really hard to find.
Yes, hard to find. It is there. I agree. He's not letting the kids in on a day one though. He's not whispering carpe diem in their ears as they look at dead people on the walls. Like, yeah, right.
No. But that scene did remind me of, oh yeah, chick, you're a lot older than when you first saw this movie. Come on.
Right.
The days are numbered.
Yeah.
Further down the line. Way further down the line.
We're getting there. We're
Yeah.
getting there.
But yeah, and the reason why I wanted to bring up Dead Poets is because when we're at this time when we're taping this, it is the beginning of the new school year, and the last couple of years, God love our teachers. I mean, they have been through the ringer and are still continuing to go through the ringer. Not only the aftermath of the pandemic, but then there's all sorts of weird political stuff that is happening right now that they're having to face, and they just don't have the luxury of just purely teaching.
Right. Oh yeah.
Navigating some major landmines right now. So
Yep.
I want to honor our teachers.
Yeah, I taught 23 years. I just stopped. I did 2 years through the pandemic, and you're right. It's, yeah, God bless them. You know, I didn't put I didn't connect the dots between my poetry assignment and maybe I had gotten that from Keating. I don't know. I can't say that I became a teacher because of Dead Poets Society, but you know, I will say, like, there were times in the classroom, you know, when you're constantly reflecting on what you do, and one of the questions is, you know, WWKD, like, what would Keating do in this moment? And like, that's kind of, he was definitely my pop culture teacher, North Star. He, and I don't know if are you a Simpsons fan?
Mhm.
Mr. Bergstrom, Lisa's substitute teacher, voiced by Dustin Hoffman, who had to have been inspired by Dead Poets Society. Yeah, Keating and Bergstrom were my two. Like, what do I do here from these guys? Yeah, this is a very, very appropriate film this time of year, and again, all the teachers I know and love, and the teachers I've never met. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do and more. So we're getting to the time where we're starting to wrap up. So any final thoughts on Dead Poets?
I think I'm looking at my notes. I think we hit everything. Yeah, I can't imagine anyone watching this hasn't seen it, but if you haven't, my goodness, go to the library, stream it where, I don't know where it's streaming right now.
I got it off of, I think, Amazon Prime. You have to rent it for $4.
Okay.
But $4.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest lasting legacies is that idea that, you know, I never saw this coming from Robin Williams, and just what a career. I mean, he had just come off of, I believe, Good Morning Vietnam, and that's who I thought he was. I thought he was the loud, gregarious, brain moving faster than the bullet train. I mean, just this unbelievable comedian. To see him do that, and then I don't think right away, but he moves to Awakenings. You know, of course, he hits Good Will Hunting almost 10 years later. Just what an amazing, you know, he had it in him. I think comedy is the harder between comedy and drama, so it shouldn't be surprising when our best comedians show that they can pull off drama. But it was just awesome to watch that play out in real time, to watch Rob Williams' transformation in the roles that he got.
Well, not for nothing, I think comedians are the equivalent to jazzers. In my opinion, jazz musicians are the cream of the crop. I mean, when you really study the jazzers, a lot of them are self-taught.
Yep.
Not necessarily all of them, but a good majority of them are self-taught. And I mean, just the intricacies that they're able to do just by hearing and understanding the group dynamic that they're playing within. Comedians are very much like that. I mean, improv, they both do improv. the jazzers do improv music, the comedians do improv riffing, and it's just amazing on how the brain works and how quickly it works. So I think, in my humble opinion, that comedians make the best dramatic actors. It's
So
very
case in point, something I was watching that I didn't mention. I've been riveted by the final season of Better Call Saul.
Hmm.
And there's another example of an amazingly gifted comedic actor, Bob Odenkirk, nailing the dramatic role. Just, it was amazing to watch. Yeah, just more evidence of what you're saying.
Mhm. It's very difficult to find a dramatic actor who can really lighten up for that comedy. It's very, very difficult, but I think it's much more easier for the comic to go into the drama.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
There's one more thing that came to mind. The World According to Garp. When did that come out? I think it was around the same time.
Came out before. I was looking it up today. I think it came out a good 4 years earlier. And what shocked me, which is not jive with my memory of it, is that I believe his first feature film was Popeye.
Mm.
And that was 1980. That was a full 9 years before Dead Poets Society. I don't know why I felt all his films in the first decade of his career were a lot more clumped together than they were. They're actually fairly spread out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but what a career. What an amazing career. Thank you, Robin Williams.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, all right, we're at the point where we're going.
Sorry.
We are at the point where we're going to talk about, if we were to program a block, what would you choose for your films to be companions?
Okay. All right. I think I got to go and just let me make sure my son's not going to turn the light off and try and say hi again. Sorry about that. All right. I've got 2 films that I'm going to pair up with Dead Poets Society, and I'm going to pick Boyhood. I was so taken from the get-go, and even watching a few scenes on YouTube today, just struck by young Ethan Hawke. You know, you talked about him before, and I think unbelievably, he's been underrated as an actor. Just incredible. And to see the genesis of it back then, I thought it would be neat. Not that you would get his complete life, but Boyhood, of course, is a film by Richard Linklater where they all got together for a couple weeks a year for, I believe it's 12 years. And to see Ethan Hawke as a young teen, and then get to kind of watch him grow up over the course of Boyhood, I think would be a really neat pairing. So I'd obviously go Dead Poets Society before Boyhood. I would show Boyhood after. And my other film, I'm going to go with one of my, Dead Poets Society is in this range. I heard someone say the music you listen to from ages, I forget the exact number, like 15 to age 21 is the music you take with you the rest of your life. And it's why people say, today's music sucks. Like, that's awful. It's terrible. I think the same thing goes for movies. And a movie I saw in that age range that I've always carried with me is an Italian movie called Il Postino. Are you familiar? Story of a postman, Il Postino, on a Italian, I think it's an island maybe, or maybe a coastal village. He's a simple man, not super bright. And of course he falls for the most beautiful woman in the village, tries to figure out a way to make her fall for him. And who happens to be living in this tiny village, but the famous poet Pablo Neruda, the Chilean poet, incredible writer. So it's an incredible performance. I don't remember the actor's name, but he is dead on as Pablo Neruda. And Pablo Neruda walks him through the wonders of poetry, and yeah, he shepherds this simple man to make the woman fall for him through poetry. So just, you know, it was the best I could come up with as an ode to poetry as this film. So I think that's my film block.
Yeah.
Boyhood, Dead Poet Society.
Yeah. Strong block. And I don't remember seeing El Postino, but I do remember it being in the ether. So now you've inspired me to check it out.
You know, at some point I had a CD where it was the soundtrack of the movie, and then they would have celebrities read Pablo Neruda's poems over the soundtrack.
Oh, wow.
It was the greatest, it was the most amazing thing. I'm gonna look that up on Spotify the second we are done. that just came to me. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that was like the most. I remember Sting did like my favorite Pablo Neruda poem, like the last track of the soundtrack. Yes, doing that. All right. So what's your block? Let's hear it.
Okay, so Dead Poets, Good Will Hunting. We spoke about Good Will Hunting before, for the obvious reasons of Robin Williams being the mentor, the guide for the younger men. Then going back to Ethan Hawke, Training Day.
Oh, so good. Yes.
Denzel.
Yeah.
Denzel schooling Ethan. Yeah, that was really good. I'm gonna have to watch that one again. And then the last one, which is a hat tip to Peter Weir, the director, Gallipoli, which is an Australian film that Weir did in Australia, and it has Mel Gibson and this other actor, Mark Lee, and these two boys, young men who were sprinters during the war, during World War II. I believe Gallipoli is in Egypt, I think, and so they become messengers for the Australian army. And so again, a story of friendship of young men, especially in this turbulent time. But Peter Weir is the director. So that's my
call. I've never seen that. I'm gonna look that one up. Very cool.
Very young Mel Gibson. Very, very young.
Nice.
Yeah.
He who could not play Keating. I see.
Exactly. So yeah, that's it. That's the that's the block.
What a good movie. What good blocks. This was awesome.
All right, gang. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode where we revisit the Dead Poet Society. And if you would, please remember to subscribe, like, and comment, or hit the notification button, and let us know what you thought about the Dead Poet Society and what you think about our particular blocks and what you would program if you were to program a block in a film festival. So with that said, Kevin and I guess we'll see you next time.
Take care. Thanks for hanging out.